That's right. Welcome to the side of it because it's time for Ringside. Got a bunch of news lined up for you, ladies and gentlemen. Without further ado, we're just gonna jump straight into it. On Wrestling Observer Radio, Dave Meltzer said the plan right now is still for Roman Reigns versus Cody Rhodes at Wrestlemania 40 in Philadelphia. So if you saw the press conference, I sure as hell didn't. Cody did mention that if he did win the World Heavyweight Championship, it was not going to be him finishing the story, which is good. So we've got verbal confirmation that even if he becomes the next or like a future World Heavyweight Champion, right, we don't really have too much to worry about. Cody Rhodes isn't just going to win that and then be like, all right, I'm done, and then he's going to go off into the sunset. So I'm looking forward to how this storyline is going to go, mainly because it's already set in stone, so there's not really too much to worry about. So really the only thing left to do is to just see how it goes. So that's pretty much all we have to do. Sticking with the Observer, the current SummerSlam match lineup calls for Roman Reigns versus Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar, Trish Stratus versus Becky Lynch, Asuka versus Flair versus Bianca, Gunther versus McIntyre, Rousey versus Baszler, and a Logan Paul showcase. As of now, Paul versus LA Knight is not the plan. Okay, so that makes a whole lot of sense. Trish versus Becky, okay. I'm trying to think, like, why would they do that? But, like, I know that they haven't necessarily finished their feud. Asuka versus Flair versus Bianca. That could go either way, to be totally honest with you. Drew versus Gunther. Okay, I don't know how true this is, but apparently they still haven't negotiated a contract. I'm going to have to look that up. I don't know if that's still, like, a thing. Because, like, unless he's pulling, like, a John Moxley and he's just like, it's fine, I don't really need a contract, which, I mean, respect. But I swear I read that. So I swear I was on Twitter. And Dave Meltzer said it. He was like, yeah, they still haven't really negotiated anything, but Drew's still back. So, I mean, do with that what you will. I don't know how true that is, right? Rousey versus Shayna. That actually threw me for a loop, to be totally honest with you. So I'm really looking forward to how they flesh out that storyline. And Logan Paul is going to be at SummerSlam, which really says a lot about how they feel about Logan Paul, to be totally honest. I mean, the fact that they threw him into the Money in the Bank match, he had a really good showcase. I really like what he did. I mean, shouts out to him and Ricochet for still managing to pull off that move. So far, I'm liking the card. I like how it looks. It seems like that's where all the storylines are not so much going to end, but like that's where like most of them are going to, well, that's where Brock and Cody is going to end, and it seems like Reigns and Uso is probably going to end there. Maybe Gunther versus McIntyre. I don't necessarily know how that's going to go. It really depends on how the contract is. So, but yeah, other than that, man, I'm really liking the SummerSlam cards. So, yeah, man, I can't wait to see how it turns out. Next, Fightful Select says there are no creative plans for John Cena beyond his special surprise appearance at Money in the Bank. So that really doesn't surprise me, to be totally honest with you. I mean, considering the fact that him coming was like a real surprise, I definitely did not see that coming at all. So, I mean, and he didn't really do a whole lot. He didn't really announce any matches. Grayson Waller came out, but that was really just like Grayson Waller didn't really come out for any reason. It was just because like Cena was out there and Cena needed to like have like a cap, to like what he was doing and everything like that. He also referenced like the weird TikTok that one dude made, which, I don't really think Waller needed to be there. But other than that, segment wasn't really anything, to be honest. I mean, I think the most that he got out of that was just, we should have WrestleMania in Wembley, and that was about it. Or like WrestleMania in London, and everybody seemed to be really happy about that. I mean, listen, it sounds like a really great idea. I'm not from London, so like it's not like I'm like deprived of wrestling. Even if it was, I wouldn't be able to go anyway. But that's a whole different can of worms, So not like I don't have any like outstanding crimes or anything. Just and right now that's not really my anyway. Okay, the point is, the segment didn't really do a whole lot. It was just, hey, Cena's here, and, it was just a nice surprise and a nice break from all the matches and everything. So, other than that, not much else to say. Moving back over to the Observer, while some of Vince McMahon's ideas are outdated, he gives a lot of good input on WWE creative, a source told the Wrestling Observer newsletter. They added, quote, "It's not the interference itself that is the problem, it's how and when he does it." So that makes a lot of sense. I think that... See, okay, so I'm thinking back to all the times where I was like, I didn't even know that was Vince. And I don't know, hearing that it's not necessarily the interference, right? It's mainly just like when he does it. I would honestly be a little bit miffed as well if I spent like a whole week putting together a storyline only for Vince to come in at the last second and like take it out. So I completely understand where they're coming from. They want to stop him from doing that. I don't necessarily think, reading this, it doesn't sound entirely as though Vince doing the creative decision making is like a massive issue. I just think that they're trying to like change up necessarily how it gets done. So I don't know. I mean, that do what you will with that news, right? I know that we're still like waiting for the Endeavor deal to get finalized, so maybe all of this will completely change once that's said and done. And I don't know, maybe he'll get like more power in the near future. I don't necessarily know, but from what I'm hearing so far, it doesn't seem like he's doing that bad. It just seems like, you know, maybe like, I don't know, maybe like if you're going to do it earlier. You know what I mean? That's what it sounds like, you know. At the end of the day, hopefully they get that resolved, and hopefully he doesn't get too much creative control, because otherwise, I fear for what could happen. Next, according to Fightful, Grayson Waller is, quote, set to be cleared from his injury soon. So if you were wondering why all of the Grayson Waller segments, include him not really doing a whole lot, and I was also one of the people who was, questioning almost every single day, why is Grayson Waller not been in a match? That's why. So you remember when he got injured in the match that he had with Carmelo Hayes? He apparently is still injured from that. Like, he's still recovering from that. And I had no idea. I didn't know that, he was. And to be fair, I had like no clue whatsoever, just because he's been, on TV, and the fact that he's still been injured, he's still been showcased in a bunch of different segments, which really tells you a lot. And the fact that, like, they could have picked anybody. They could have had Austin Theory come back out there. You know what I mean? But the fact that Grayson Waller came out there really tells you a lot about the confidence that they have in that guy. So it's very telling that, Grayson Waller has been doing all these segments, and he's really been moving along. I wouldn't say that he's been furthering the storylines, but he's like the Miz. He's definitely kind of like been like squished in between it, you know what I mean? And the fact that he is having another talk show segment with Edge, of all people, it definitely says a lot about, like, where they are placing him really, like, on the card, so they have a lot of faith in him. And I'm glad to know that he's going to be returning soon, and hopefully he makes a speedy recovery. Next, The Observer notes that there is talk of taping NXT television outside of Orlando and doing house show loops outside of Florida. So this instantly makes me think of Nick Khan wanting to have NXT be showcased as a third brand. And, if that's not the case, okay, the only thing that I think of right now is they're doing this because they want NXT to be seen from more people. That's the only thing that I can think of, because other than that, I don't really think that they need a reason, right? Because they've been doing it from Orlando the entire time, and they've got like their whole like crowd and everything like that, and it just seems a little bit unnecessary to be doing it. Listen, more power to you for doing it. That's not really the issue. I just think that the main reason why you might be doing it is simply because you want more people to see NXT, and again, the whole like third brand thing. So that's really the only thing I can pull from. Other than that, I don't really have much else to say about that, because I can't really see why you would do it. So I literally cannot think of any other reason other than the fact that you want more eyes on the product, because you want NXT to be seen as a third brand, because you want a better TV deal in the future. If there's another reason, then I have no idea what it could be. Finally, they also say folks within WWE are keeping quiet about future plans for the Creeds after their Loser Leaves NXT match that airs this Tuesday. So that tells you everything you need to know. At least, okay, what that tells me is that the Creeds are losing. That's what that tells me. I could 100% be wrong here. But the fact that they're keeping quiet on the plans tells me that they're going to lose, and then they're just going to show up to the main roster. So, because it's not like Loser Leaves like WWE, it's Loser Leaves NXT. So, the Creeds are going to lose, probably via like some type of heel shenanigan or something like that, right? And then they're just going to show up on the main roster, whether that's Raw or SmackDown. As far as I can tell, it doesn't really matter to me. Maybe that's why they're getting called up to the main roster, because at some point down the line, the Creeds are going to eventually end up winning the titles. I don't know if they're going to take the titles off of Sami and Kevin. Again, that could be anybody at this point, but I think that going back to the original point, I think that's mainly why they are probably, again, I could be wrong, but just the fact that they're keeping quiet about the future plans tells me that they are potentially moving up to the main roster. So we're just gonna have to wait and see how that turns out. What are we talking about? Nelson said the plan is still for Reigns versus Cody. Good. That doesn't necessarily have to be. Well, okay, no. He said he wanted to finish the story, so more than likely it's gonna have to do with Roman Reigns having the title. Maybe he's not gonna have both. Maybe he's going to have one. I don't necessarily know, so we're going to see how that turns out. All right. Reigns versus Uso. Rhodes versus Lesnar. Stratus versus Lynch. Asuka, Flair, and Bianca. Gunther versus McIntyre. Rousey versus Shayna. Rousey versus Shayna. And a Logan Paul showcase. The SummerSlam card definitely looks stacked. I don't want to say that, like, oh, that's where the storylines are going to end and stuff like that, because I could always be wrong. But so far, the main takeaway from this is that the SummerSlam card looks very stacked right now, and I can't wait to see it. No creative plans for Cena. That makes sense. He came out, was like, hey, WrestleMania in London. And everybody's like, yeah, that's a great idea. And then Grace Waller came out and he was like, oh, Australia. And then he got smacked up. So that was pretty much it. They're not really mad about Vince's ideas. They're outdated, yes, but he gives a lot of good input, which is fair. He's been around for a while. It's not the interference itself. It's just how and when he does it, which, makes a lot of sense. It's not really a smart idea to cook the entire meal and then go, hey, it would be a great idea if you smacked this on top of it. It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So that makes sense why they're a little bit frustrated about it. Waller is said to be clear from his injury. So again, if you were questioning why it's only been a bunch of like Waller effect segments, that's 100% why. Listen, I'm looking forward to him being in matches again. As everyone knows, there's talk of NXT taping. Okay, they want to do TV tapings outside of Orlando, right? And doing house show loops outside of Florida, which tells me that they're just trying to do that thing with like, hey, look, it's not a developmental brand anymore. We're trying to look at it as a third brand. And then you got like Nick Khan like off to the side, like, yeah. Okay, so I want a better TV deal. You know what I mean? But I don't know. That's like the main. If you told me that it was another reason, I don't know. I mean, I'd find it hard to believe you. That's all I'm saying. And they're keeping quiet about the future plans for the Creeds after their loser leaves NXT match, which makes a lot of sense. Again, it tells me that the Creeds are leaving. Again, it's not WWE, it's just NXT, so they're probably going to show up to the main roster. I don't necessarily know what that means for them in the near future. I assume they're going to be put in a storyline. That's, the obvious answer here. But in terms of like tag title gold in the near future, I don't know. That depends on like a myriad of different things. So we're just going to have to wait and see how it unfolds, in the next couple months. Folks, that's going to do it. Hopefully everybody has a wunderbar tonight and a wunderbar tomorrow. And as always, big hugs. Big hugs all around.